Is everyone sitting somewhere where they can actually see? I know it's...
Is this your chair? Can I pinch your...
Yeah. It's really weird having this kind of pillar straight down the middle. So kind of feel like two separate rooms here speaking to. Thank you everyone for coming. By the way, for those who don't know, we've decided we're streaming today. So we're currently live on LinkedIn. So everyone's talking on the Northern Affinity page, and I can just see himself talking back on the screen there. So it's really weird. So I have to change that. We do a lot of our events as hybrid events, so that will be through Zoom, and we have all the people who are there as guests online and all that kind of thing. So we've done that before, but we've tried this where it's almost like people watching the meeting rather than seeing it. So we'll see how that goes. So if you want to have a look back, jump on the Northern Affinity LinkedIn or YouTube page later, and you can kind of see bits of the day. And maybe there's bits from when we hear from the speakers that you want to kind of catch up on or kind of re-remember. Can do that as well. So thank you everyone for coming, firstly. It's actually the first time we've done this type of event in Liverpool. And I'm going to introduce Katie in a minute from Clockwise. These guys have been really, really supportive of us, and we do these events all over the place, but like I said, the first time we've done it here. But we do a regular co-working day here, or twice a month now, actually, which a number of people in the room are looking around have been to before, either regular or semi-regular. Kind of very much an open invite to anyone who wants to come along to those in the future. So the co-working day is very different to today. So we've got speakers, and me stood here now. The co-working day is literally you make what you want of it. If you want to come and ignore everyone and stick some headphones on and work, you're allowed to do that. If you want to come and not open your laptop and just chat away all day, to me mainly, Sarah as well. Really bad influence on me.
And I get loads of work.
You're very welcome to, or reality, a little bit of everything as well. So we do that a couple of times a month. So today what we're going to do is just kind of very briefly give everyone a bit of an overview of Northern Affinity and what we do. So some know, some don't. We're going to have a couple of speakers today. So we've got Graham there, who's going to do kind of the first one. And then we'll have a bit of a break around, probably a quarter to 10 to 11-ish, depending on how many questions you have for Graham. A bit of an informal bit in the middle, a chance to get another drink and biscuits and just generally chat as well. And then we'll have the second half, which Jenny and Sarah will be the second speakers for us. I'll let them tell you later what we're going to talk about and all that kind of stuff. I think most people know me. I'm Michael from the Northern Affinity. I started 3.5 years ago. Feels like a lot longer than that now, but as I touched on earlier, the first time I've done this event here, been doing this type of event over in the West Yorkshire area since we started. Very recently done the first one in Manchester as well, and the plan is to expand and what we do, both the co-working days and other events, this type of thing. Yeah, the other thing to remember to kind of touch on, I've just seen that pop up in the background with my face on it. With Northern Affinity, we do a lot of other stuff as well to get people to connect, and I'm a big believer in giving people a platform to demonstrate their skills, their knowledge, their experience, and who they are and what they are. And the podcast is a great example of that. It's an opportunity for people that these three guys today, it's a great example of that as well. It's a chance for them for you guys to find out more about them, and that's what we try to do as well at Northern Affinity, as well as the event and bringing people together stuff. I want to introduce Katie, by the way. Say hi. Do you want to just quickly tell everyone about Clockwise? And come on here, so you're on the stream. Come on. Because I'm sure, obviously, those of you know this venue, it's a fantastic place, fantastic venue. You know, we love working from here. So.
Hi. It's good to see some new and familiar faces. So we are Clockwise. If you don't know, we're a service office space. We focus on flexibility and a sense of community. So I have Kelly here, our community coordinator, who is our events queen. If you would like to have a little look at the space, just come and grab me or one of the team. And we have 14 sites across the UK, including Manchester, Liverpool and Leeds, which is why we work so closely with Michael here. So yeah, welcome to Clockwise. Hope you have a good day, and just give us a shout if you want to have a little bit more of a nose. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Do you have social media?
Sorry?
Do you have
We do, yes, yeah. So if you follow us, we're quite on LinkedIn. So if you follow me or any of the team, we post constantly. Or if you follow Work Hotwise, or we are on Instagram as well at the same time. So Work Hotwise.
Thank you. Before we kind of crack on with the first speaker, I also want to introduce Alex. Alex has very, very recently joined me in Northern Affinity and helping me kind of what I was just talking about a minute ago, kind of growth, especially around the northwest area. Can I quickly introduce yourself?
No, it is. I've been on camera and filmed this. Like twins, isn't it? I'll be Danny DeVito. You can hopefully you can see me at the back. I am stood up, so apologies if you can't. In terms of the Northern Affinity, it was an absolute no-brainer for me to get involved early. So Mike reached out, I think it was just before, after Christmas. I don't know if it's been last year. Because, believe it or not, I am living in Lancashire, operating in Lancashire. My hometown is Clitheroe now. So I am a Yorkshire lad who kind of crossed the border from the Sins. But really great place to live and work from is the Ribble Valley. So Mike's asked me to kind of help him push out the Northern Affinity across Lancashire now. So that's kind of my goal and my aim. And there's a lot of opportunity in Lancashire, a hell of a lot of opportunity. I think last year alone was 14,000 new startups created, which is the largest amount of new startups ever. I think 4% increase on the year before. So clearly a lot of people working from the back bedrooms, the garden offices, potentially had been working for larger organisations, feeling a little bit lonely, want to be part of the community. This is ideal. So Northern Affinity is great for getting people out of their offices, getting people working together, collaborating. Clearly today is a great example of that. So hopefully you'll come and join me in some of the events that we'll be creating across Lancashire. We're looking at Preston, Blackburn, Burnley. I was in Lancaster yesterday. So yeah, hopefully you get the idea. Get me on LinkedIn, follow me on there, and hopefully see you guys in the not too distant future. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I like Sean's comment on the LinkedIn post, by the way. He's watching both online and in person, which is some skill. So yeah, Graham, do you want to kind of come up and introduce yourself, and I'll let you do your magic.
Down,
So just down should be there.
I'm standing in front of the screen. Morning.
Morning.
How you doing?
Good.
Here we go. So, Sales Geek's mission is to change the way the world perceives sales. So, sales has a bad reputation. Anybody in recruitment will understand what that feels like. We're here to change that and for people to be proud that they're in sales. So, let's talk through how that works. So, what does Sales Geek do? I work as a part-time sales director for businesses that can't yet afford a full-time sales director. We also do exceptional sales training. We support businesses to scale and to exit. So before I was a sales geek, I worked with venture capitalists and found that SMEs tend to sell when they were tired rather than when they'd prepared their business for exit. So we help businesses to do that. And anybody who likes free stuff, we have got a free Sales Geek app, which I'll give you the link at the end to download if you so wish. So today's about goal achievement. So that's very different from setting goals. So there's two skills, isn't there? There's setting goals and there's achieving goals. So let's talk about how to set them in a way that helps you achieve them. So who knows where the term comfort zone comes from? Anybody? Okay. Let's go there then. So looking at that, comfort zone, adventure zone, disaster zone, what happens if you stay in your comfort zone?
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes. I like it. What happens to your comfort zone if you go into your adventure zone?
Adventure.
It gets bigger. Okay? And what happens if you go in your disaster zone? Who cares? So, we're all about getting out of this comfort zone in order that you stretch into your adventure zone and your comfort zone gets bigger and bigger and bigger. Where would you learn the most?
In the disaster or the adventure zone? Probably the disaster zone, to be honest.
Just there,
Depends
right
how
on the
disaster
edge.
it is.
Yeah, you've seen this before. Okay, does that make sense? So if we expand into our adventure zone, our comfort zone is going to get much bigger, and we're going to achieve things that we never thought were possible. So, where do long-term stretch goals exist? So I know if you run a marathon, yeah. So before you run a marathon, if you just went out and tried to run a marathon, where would it sit?
Disaster zone.
Absolute disaster zone, yeah. But did you run a marathon?
Eventually, yes.
You did eventually. So that then went from your adventure zone into your comfort zone.
Yeah.
So things are possible that are way outside of our comfort zone. If we tried them now, they're completely in disaster zone. Any examples of that? So is there anything that are in your mind that you thought I've always wanted to do that you know at the moment are impossible, but you know at the moment if you went there you'd go into your disaster zone, but you know if you actually went into your adventure zone you could get there eventually? Any examples?
It could be starting a business, couldn't it?
Could be starting a business, that's a good one.
Buy a yacht in the Caribbean.
Well, yeah. I think you need some money for that,
Disaster.
don't you? Yeah. You can borrow some money. So we've got to get out of our comfort zone. So of course, if you want things to change, you have to change. So it's in our control, isn't it? It's up to us to do something different in order that we achieve something that's beyond where we are now. 83%, so 83% of people leave their house today with absolutely no goals in mind. Nothing, zilch, they'll just drift through life and not achieve anything that they've thought about achieving. So 83% of people, hold their hands up. 14% of people have got some kind of goal in their head. So they've got something that they think they want to achieve, but what haven't they done? What are you doing, Graham? He's writing it down.
Numbers, yeah.
Good answer. 3% of people write it down. You can't see this, sorry. And that makes you 30 times more successful just by writing your goals down. So it's a huge thing to do just to write your goals down. Come up with your goals, then write them down. What I'm going to talk about today takes you into the percent of the 3%, because there's extra things that you need to do in order that you actually reach your goals and smash your goals. So if you're here, are you where you thought you'd be 5 years ago? Are you doing what you thought you'd be doing 5 years ago? Maybe you didn't think you'd have a business 5 years ago. I didn't think I'd have a business 5 years ago. That's disaster zone stuff for me. But I went into my adventure zone and here I am now. So why didn't you do it? What could have changed? What could you have done? And then let's look forward now. So let's look, where do you want to be this year? So let's take it in a bit. So not 5 years, but this year. What can you do to change that can make a difference? A lot of people set their goals. This is a really good time at the end of February to do a talk on goals, because a lot of people will set them in January. They might have put them in their head and then they've gone. And then they'll set the same goal next January and the same thing happens again and again. So let's try and take that a little bit further. So what's stopping you? What do you have to do that you're not already doing now? What do you have to change in order to get where you want to go? Let's see how we do that. So goals are not enough. So I'm not happy with the 83%. I'm not happy with the 14%. I'm not even happy with 3%. So what we've got the power to do is to take ourselves further in order to achieve those goals. And I put the secret ingredient on the title to this to try and tease people. We'll talk about that in a minute. So most people have heard of SMART goals. So specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, time-bound. So that is, where are you now? What results are you trying to achieve? And when are you going to try and achieve them? Okay, so not many people do that, not many people write it down. We're into kind of 14% thought about it, you're into 3% once you write it down. So the next thing you need to do, habits. So habits associated with these SMART goals is going to take you so much further. Okay? We'll come to some examples in a second. So what are specific actions totally within your control that if you do them, will lead to that goal? Secret ingredient. Okay, so what a lot of people do, and you'll go online if you search out goals, it'll talk about habits. Very few places mention triggers, but triggers is the key ingredient to make sure you keep up with your habits and with your smart goals. So vitamins, how many people buy vitamins, let's say 90 vitamins, 90 days. How long do they last? Do they last 90 days? That's much longer. It's really bargain, isn't it? That's ages. That's because people want to get healthy. People want to go into the habit of taking vitamins, but don't set a trigger. So what's a simple trigger for taking vitamins? How many people have a brew as soon as they wake up in the morning? As soon as you switch the kettle on, take your vitamins. It's really simple. And then your vitamins don't last as long, but at least they're going in your body and doing some good. Any other examples from the room? What other triggers could you use?
Exercise is a good one. Packing your bag the night before, and whether it's in your car already or sat ready to go, your clothes are laid out, ready to do it. And speaking of that, that's what I found. Made sure I got out there, but clothes would not be my trigger to.
So let's talk about that. So where is Mike's decision point when he chooses to do exercise? Is it in the morning when he gets up feeling grumpy and tired and can just stay in bed?
Night before.
Night before. So it's in a time when he's got his rational brain working, and that means he's doing it. I did a similar thing. So 6 years ago, I decided, my goal was to do a sub-3 marathon. The habit was I needed to run more. And at the time, I had a job where I was staying away with work. So my habit that I set was that every time I stay away with work, I would run. So the trigger was easy. I stay away and run. There's no decision. So 6 years ago, I set that. And every time I stay away with work now, there's no decision to be made. If it's cold, if it's hot, if it's limited time, I still run. And it's actually harder for me not to run because I've made that decision, and that little chimp in my brain will be shouting at me if I'm not running. Obviously, we talked about it. You need to write them down. Writing down means that you're committing to yourself. If you talk to other people about it, it adds some value to it as well, but really it's you committing to yourself. If other people are responsible for your goals, your habits, your triggers, then it won't be as powerful as if you do it yourself. So, who remembers Venn diagrams? Going back to school with maths. Just about. So I've got it on here, one, because I'm rubbish at doing PowerPoint and couldn't draw circles. So, when we're doing goals, we need to tie things together that are important. So if you set just your business goals, does that mean you'll spend enough time with your family? It might mean that you make a lot of money. It might mean that you don't go out running if you like. So is it important just to set business goals? Absolutely not. If you just set personal goals, and let's say Mike wanted to do X for going out running, he wanted to achieve something. If he didn't spend any time with his family, if he didn't bother turning up to the Northern Affinity events, and he wouldn't make any money, he might be happy there, but his life won't work. So we've got to make sure these are all interconnected in order that we, from that Venn diagram, that's the bit where life becomes really good and you achieve everything you want to achieve. Because we all want to spend time with our family, we all want to make sure that we're securing ourselves for the future, we all want to do well in the businesses that we're working, and we all want to make sure that we've got some kind of personal life outside of all the above. So if you tie those all together, that's where success comes. So this is the template I use in order that we recall all of the above. And you can see it's just a simple table. It's nothing special, but if you print it out, you write it down, you put it somewhere that is really handy. On the back of it, put a photograph of something that's really important to you. Then that means that you're going to start to achieve those goals. Make sure that it gives you the life balance that you want, but you achieve what you want to in each individual one. So who's heard of lead and lag indicators? So if anybody wanted to lose weight, for instance, okay, if you weighed yourself every day, it would make absolutely no difference at all to your goal. Okay? So that's a lead indicator. That's a lag indicator, sorry. Your lead indicator is everything that would lead to the success in your goal. So if someone wanted to lose weight, what would it be that you'd have to do? You'd measure the exercise and you'd measure your calorie intake, etc. So you've got to think about your lead and lag indicators, and that works in business, and that's what we do with businesses in Sales Geek. We help them understand what lag indicators they're trying to work towards, and what are the lead indicators that we need to measure on a weekly, monthly basis in order to achieve what we want to achieve. So if anybody wants a copy of that, email me. What is really important is if you do it and you smash your goals, I'd love an email in about a year's time saying, I've done it great. Because that makes a big difference. I've worked with people in the past who, one guy in Kent who never thought he'd buy a house in this country, a South African guy. This is what led to him, or a big part of what led to him buying a house. That's how powerful it can be. So, the question is, how are you going to do it? What you don't want to do is set yourself a ridiculous goal that you're never going to achieve. So think about marginal gains. Think about the little things that add up to the big thing. I listened to a podcast recently. I couldn't find it last night to refer to, but basically it was an explorer who was crossing the desert, and people kept telling him it was impossible. So what he did was looked at every single mile in that huge expedition, and he couldn't find 1 mile that was impossible. And therefore he knew that if he set off, it would be possible. So it's breaking it down into small chunks in order that you can achieve something that is much bigger than you can achieve at the moment. So, that's me finished, but it's all down to you now. So who's going to be in the kind of 83%? Leave here thinking, yeah, that was good. Yeah, that's not for me. Who's going to write down the goals? Who's going to think about the goals, the 14%? Who's going to write down the goals in the 3%? Or who is going to go one step further? Goals, habits, triggers, interconnected with everything in your life in order that you overachieve from where you are now. That's me. Any questions?
I've got a question about, you kind of briefly touched on it about telling other people about your goals. How, you use the example earlier, how important do you think that is to almost to hold yourself accountable?
I think it's really important. So these goal cards that I've got, I wouldn't share people in business about what I want to achieve in wealth or in family or personal, but I tell them what I was trying to achieve in business in order that we can kind of align together. I speak to my family about what we want to achieve this year. Maybe it's to do with holidays, maybe it's to do with something else. Wealth, you speak to probably your financial advisor about what you want to achieve. So if you speak to the right people about the right goal, then they're part of your tribe and they're going to help you along the way. That might be about speaking to Sarah about what you want to achieve in your personal life, which you'll touch on later on.
Yeah, the reason because for me, like when I use the example of the marathon, the first thing I did was, well, one, plaster it all on various social media platforms so that I knew that I couldn't get away with it. And second, and I did it to raise money for charity as well. So it was like almost like, well, I can't let them down. Kind of just look like a very good person if I do. So for me, I know that's you can't do that with everything. You can't do that with personal goals, but things like that made a difference. Going when it's those you talk about the 1%, going out for that run when I felt tired, it was raining, it was windy, whatever it was. Yeah, I think that was the big thing for me. Yeah, kind of accountability.
You did move your decision point to when your rational brain is thinking, then you're much more likely to achieve it. Yeah. Good. So I said free stuff. App. So please download the free Sales Geek app. All you need to do is scan that or that, depends on which phone you prefer to play with. And then you'll get a Sales Geek app, put it into your goals that you want to learn some stuff, set it as a habit to do some of these courses, and you'll take your business a little bit further along the way.
Right,
Thanks very much.
Can I just ask your thoughts around getting back on track when you don't miss your goal? Have you got any tips for that, sort of getting back on track when you're not meeting indicators?
I think you've just got to assess. I mean, goals change throughout the year, don't they? And if you're not going to achieve a certain time in a marathon, then you need to just reassess your goals, make sure your habits fit with all these things, because it might be that something happens in your family that means that one of these others suffer, but it's a case of reassessing. That's not as much as setting still to help you achieve, it's you've got to get the balance of your life right, haven't you? So, yeah.
Can I ask something, Graham? How many goals should you focus on at one time?
On that template, I put 3 in each, but a lot of those are interconnected. So 3 business goals aren't going to be to start a business in Hawaii, 1 in France and 1 in Germany. They should all be connected.
Maybe it's me, or because I'm a bloke. I find it quite difficult to focus on more than one thing.
I think as long as you're setting goals across here and making sure they're all aligned and that nothing and nobody is suffering in your life, and you don't stretch one way too much, then at least 1 goal in each would be really good.
So make sure they're linked.
Yeah, absolutely. The one, because if it's counterproductive, if you spend 17 hours in your business, you don't see your family, then.
Because I personally tend to have so many goals, kind of not really focusing properly on the important goal.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier, you've got to do what you're really good at and stick with that.
Yeah.
Is that maybe when things like the habits come in, where you kind of start with 1 or 2 goals today, let's say, and then you focus on that for the next 3 months, let's say. You still have the goals, you move along, but you've created the habits that help you get towards that goal, and then you add another couple of goals in.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It does, yeah.
It's kind of getting overwhelmed sometimes, I guess, that you've got so many things you're trying to do and you want to do.
It is.
There's a book, just what is it, the one thing?
Yeah.
That's it, focus on just one. And I found that a bit easier, just to get rid of the rest of it and focus on one of them. Because otherwise you just get overwhelmed by it.
Absolutely, yeah. I guess it's, if you're sitting back and looking at the whole year, what you want to achieve, or even longer, then 1, 2 or 3 goals in each area isn't unsurmountable.
I think from my personal point of view, I every year set myself these goals or targets, and like most people in here, some of them kind of just fall by the wayside. But I think I've read a book, Atomic Habits, which is a great one for me, just focusing on a few.
James Clear, is that? James Clear?
Yeah, just creating that habit which then becomes part of your long-term goals and targets. And not try to do too much. You know, we've got these long lists of kind of future plans and goals and targets, but just break it down into smaller amounts, if you like, and then the marginal gains thing will start to creep in as well.
Absolutely. And you need to tell Mike about what you're doing so you can get some social pressure on each other.
Absolutely.
Plaster it all the social media.
That's the way to do it.
I guess to use your example of going on holiday with your family, if you're setting a goal of to spend more time with my family and want to go on holiday, that's then going to be linked to wealth, isn't it? And
Absolutely.
about a holiday, and then that will be linked to your business and how you generate that wealth. So it's kind of 3 goals in 3 separate areas, but it's actually one thing.
It is all linked, yeah. Because if your business does well, then you are, in the long run, going to spend more time with your family, and you should be more comfortable and maybe have time to do whatever you want to do in your spare time. Good, thank you.
Any more questions for Graham? Before he disappears? Not literally, That's great, guys. So what we'll do now is we'll have 20 minutes or so, half an hour, where obviously it's more like this is to me, this is just as important times for you guys to connect. Some of you know each other, some of you don't. We've had a couple of people just come in as well, so you get to introduce yourself. Chance just kind of mingle, do what you need to do for the next, what time we're on there? Quarter, so we'll probably about 10 past, so 25 minutes or so, have them chats, get to know each other a little bit, and then we'll come back with Jenny and Simon. And I'll put the live stream on mute as well, so anyway, you can talk about what you want, so no one will hear you, don't worry. Yeah, feel free to help yourself to teas and coffees, guys. Thank you.
Okay.
I'll be honest, I lost track of time then because I was chatting away and I realised it was 20 past. So, yeah, so I'm going to hand over to Sarah and Jenny, who are, well, you see on the screen what we're going to do, so you don't need me to tell you. I'll let them introduce it. You need the flip chart, do you?
Oh, we did.
Excellent. So, you in charge of clicking, Jenny?
I'm in charge of doing that.
Should be good. There we go.
We thought it was actually done.
Down, yeah. Rather, yeah, any questions, obviously, you take them as you go along, or save for the end? Questions?
If you've got questions as we go through, then let us know, and then we'll make time at the end as well.
Perfect, thank you.
So I'll help you with this.
You just pull it. Oh yeah, I got it.
Smell my hands. I love coming here because the soap's so nice and toilet. I don't know what the gents is like. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd like to start really. So I've come here with Jenny today. We've been asked by Mike to come and give a talk to everybody, partners at Northern Affinity. So I'd like to just acknowledge and thank Mike for giving us this platform, but also for giving us the space to be able to share what we do and what we're creating, and hopefully give you some value, because we always say we're in it together, all of us, as business owners or business leaders in any way. So I was feeling okay. I was feeling I was in my adventure zone. Thank you, Graham. Until I realised Jenny came dressed for her disaster zone. So hopefully it won't be a disaster and we'll be able to provide some value. So Jenny and I are actually, if you just go back, see, I'll put you in charge of the clicker. I'm sorry. So we are, Jenny's going to be talking a little bit about the work that we do, rather than us just say now. But just to position where we've come together, Jenny, we have a combined specialism of leadership development, HR consultancy, and mental health and wellbeing support. And Jenny and I met through the Northern Affinity. She's going to tell you all about our journey to get to this point today. And we've come today to share our thoughts around relationship, really. And when we're looking at ourselves as leaders, as business leaders, whether we own a business, we're in some position of responsibility, we first and foremost, we need to be able to lead ourselves in that, because we come to work, we live in our work, we've got ideas and aspirations for how we want our business and our leadership to impact, firstly on the value we're putting out into the world, but on ourselves as well. So we know collectively there have been very challenging times and ever-changing times, and for some people they found the gift in that challenge, and it's been quite a growth period, and for others less so. But whenever we're going through life, we're always going to hit personal, professional challenges, whatever level of your business you're at. So whether you're at a growth stage or you're a startup stage, whenever we go to the next level of challenge, there's a whole different set of different challenges. So how can we lead ourselves in that so we always feel safe, secure, grounded, and able to progress our businesses in the best way that we want to. So I'm going to give you an invitation now. So we're going to talk a little bit about our collaboration. We will talk about self-leadership and give you a model really to really get you thinking about what it is that you want from your leadership, from your business, and the way you want to get there. So we'll give you that throughout the session so that you can take away and reflect on. But I'd like to invite you now to be really use this space we are together to take your hats off, all your different hats off if there's anything else going on outside of this space today in different areas of life, and just to be fully present and to give yourself. Jenny and I, our whole theme is around creating space. We're here today, we're connected as leaders, and I really want you to engage at this level for yourself and to get something from it. So if you need to let go of something right now, just park it. You can always pick it up the minute we start talking. But and to see how this relates to you, because Jenny don't come here, we're not positioning ourselves as experts by any means. We're positioning ourselves as people who have acquired skill sets, knowledge, we're constantly learning and growing, and we just want to pass forward what our thoughts and what we've seen works and what works for us, and that will be different how it works for you. So an invitation really for you to do that. And then at the end of the session, we've left some feedback forms, but they're actually feedback and development forms for us so that we can think about how we can provide value, but also there's an invitation again for you to engage and see what you've taken from here, because we want to always be making meaning from what we do. So I'll pass you over to Jenny, who will tell you a little bit about our story.
Our story, so it all started around this time last year. I imagine a lot of people have felt this way. I was feeling a little bit lonely in business, and I went on a mission to connect with female founders across the Northwest, and went on my way and sent out loads and loads of LinkedIn invites asking people to come for a Zoom coffee with me. And I've since learned that people don't really like to just have a LinkedIn connection asking them to come for a coffee. So Sarah must have liked my forward approach, and we went from there.
I think that's really key, what Jenny said about approach, because I get all sorts of things in my inbox, and I get loads of people who haven't connected yet and who want to chat to me and see if we can collaborate. Now, I love collaboration. We're all about collaboration. In fact, what Jenny and I are going to do is support people in collaboration, set them up for success, or as they're going forward, or get them back on track if things have gone a little bit not how as it was intended. But I think that relationship, first and foremost, that connection and the way people approach is really important. It's if you go on a first date, you wouldn't kind of go up to someone and say, let's get together right now. And it was the way Jenny approached me. The message, she was very clear about the purpose of what the Zoom chat was, and when we did connect, she was very clear. We should share values, no pressure. It was just a lovely reach out, and look where we. Okay.
So we had our first date, or our Zoom coffee, and I had zero expectations of what that wanted to be, but I felt like my background within HR and Sarah's background within women's leadership and wellness coaching would be a good place to start, and we would have a lot in common. At the same time, I'd also started coming to some of the Northern Affinity co-working days, and for me, like, networking is not, it's my danger zone, it scares me, but I'd immediately felt kind of really welcomed into the Northern Affinity group. I liked the fact that it was all about collaboration rather than very salesy and having to deliver that pitch. So I encouraged Sarah to come along with me as a bit of moral support on those days as well.
Yeah, Mike didn't know what was about to hit him. So no, seriously, the thing I loved about Jenny introducing me to Northern Affinity was the minute I came here, it was really, really clear that Mike walked his own talk. It's very values-led, it's built on people connecting, wants to collaborate and support each other, and I've experienced nothing but ever since. So I was really grateful for that opportunity.
And then we ended up going to the business fair, which was in July last year. Again, I was asked to deliver a talk, and in my panic of preparing for that talk, I had forgotten to sort somewhere to kind of sit for the rest of the day. So I ended up jumping on the end of Sarah's table, which meant that we were able to spend a lot of time during that day kind of chatting about our shared passions and interests as well.
We did, and it was actually towards the end of the day, because these things happen, don't you? You spend the whole day, you get praised, you million miles, and sometimes that little kind of seed gets sown in the most unusual places. And it was just as we were going out, actually, and she said, I know you do a lot of work with women in leadership, and what do you think around men? And we talk about compassion. Jenny and I both have been brought together by this theme of compassionate leadership. And we started this conversation, and Jenny was seeing where all those sort of the pain which you were experiencing, being overwhelmed, and you saw that very with the men you were working with, didn't you? And I was sharing about the women, and then as we walked out together talking about that, we decided we better say hello to our neighbour who'd sat behind us all day, and we hadn't even said hello to. So we didn't get many neighbourly love, did we? So I had to go and say, oh, really sorry, we haven't had a chance to connect. And just by chance, he was Leeds based, and he said, oh, I go down to the Wirral an awful lot. There's a lot of, he was an HR consultant, need for leadership work, people are really struggling and they've been overwhelmed and the school's crying out for it. I said, oh, okay, and that's basically where we ended up on that day.
And then I get this message afterwards from Sarah asking if I wanted to tell me that she'd got an idea about collaborating. I was open to having the conversation, and as we kind of went through and discussed it, I realised that it was really helping me achieve what I felt needed to be achieved for my clients. Like I was finding that my clients were saying that they just didn't have the space, the time to really focus on supporting their teams, even though they wanted to. And it was just something that just kept coming up for me constantly. And I felt as though there needed to be some work and support that I could give them to help them create that space. And I suppose putting their oxygen mask on first, that they can then support their team in the way that they want to support their team. So it all felt really aligned, and I don't know if anybody else is spiritual, but I actually went back on my journal about a year ago from today, and I'd written out exactly kind of those ideas, and it is basically an overview of the work that me and Sarah have started working on. So the stars have kind of aligned on that one, and we're going to share with you a few kind of tools and models to help you work through that as well.
And just to sort of reflect on what Jenny said there about how she got to that place and saw how all these dots have joined up, things that she thought about and actually journaled about, and she got to this place now. It's often only, I always say it's often only in hindsight we get the clarity of how we've got to where we are, and we look back and we join everything up. And it brought me back to when, 2009, when I went for an interview to lead a mental health service and the training. And in the interview, they asked me, because there was a lot around, I was therapeutically trained, so there was a lot around depression, anxiety, all the core stable things. They said, is there anything else you'd like to bring to the programme? I remember sitting there thinking, do I say it, don't I say it, do I say it, don't I say it? I said, I'd really like to do something around compassionate communication. Anyway, I got the job. So I developed the course, and I'd forgotten all about that. And coping with change. So here I am now, and I've done that, and that was that work, and I've been in the leadership work, and now with Jenny, I'm like, oh gosh, I remember doing that. And I remember saying that in my interview, and isn't it funny when you look back? And sometimes we plant seeds, and we're watering them along the way, and we're not quite sure how we're doing that. But it's really, to me, it's an invitation to really be mindful of the things that we're drawn to and we want to do, and the things that light a little fire inside of us, and hold on to those as part of us as well, if they're meaningful. We're all about sort of this meaningful connection as well within our work. So where we are now, this is what Jenny and I do. But I have to say that the first place where we are now is that Jenny actually knows my name. Can remember my name. So
I've had 6 months of calling her Sarah.
So she knows her name. So creating space for culture change. We are very much around unlocking human potential, and we believe that culture starts with humans, and the organisations that we want to work with, put people first and foremost, because we are humans behind our businesses, we are humans behind our leadership titles. First and foremost, we're people. So we want to really, our messaging, encourage people. We're about unlocking the power of compassion, and we're standing strong and we're standing courageous in our conviction, and make no apologies for using that word. We have ummed and ahed about, is it soft, is it fluffy, is it woolly? But actually, it's an evidence-based approach. And in the NHS, within the pandemic, they actually brought in organisation psychologists to develop this for people who were very values-led in service to others, who were often giving of themselves and weren't thriving themselves. They were in challenging times in the pandemic, because they were so busy looking after others. And compassion is actually a key component of resilience, because empathy is when we can feel for people, but compassion is when we build on that empathy and we are driven by a desire to behave into a behaviour to relieve that distress or suffering. So compassion is actually an active thing. And when we're looking at self-leadership, looking after ourselves, that compassion piece is really important. Because if we can acknowledge when we're struggling, whatever challenge we're in, whatever change we're in, if we can, and really hook into how we're feeling and have that compassion for ourselves and empathy for ourselves, embrace the humanity within us, we are then compelled to go into the behaviour which will lead us to seeking intelligent help and support for ourselves. So compassion is not a nice to have. The power of compassion is really important and the key to resilience, I would say, and to thriving. They are my views. And partnering for growth. So this is where we've got to now. We've partnered together for growth. We come here to Northern Affinity. It's really helped us develop. We've met so many people who've been able to support us in our journey and check in with, and we all build on each other. So Graham earlier was talking about his goal setting. I was saying I can see some of the work you do, how that really aligns, and we can ask Graham for some help, some practical stuff, and sort of those messagings coming together. But also we're going to really go into people, like I said, maybe existing collaborations who might have started off, because when we're in our businesses, we're so passionate, and then we meet someone and they're so like-minded, and we want to go, yeah, and it's a bit like, Jenny in our relationship, we've had to go, right, let's dial this down a minute, because I'm new at stage, I just want to get married and everything, so let's dial this down and let's set some really firm foundations. And we've gone through a process, and in doing that, I'm also working at the moment with leaders who are going into collaborations together, going into deal with underperforming services, and they want to go in and they want to do a really good job. And these are really skilled and experienced people, and they are taking their collaboration seriously. They want to give value, they want to give impact. So it's supporting them to get those foundations, because when we're so driven, what we forget is those little micro stresses, where if someone thinks a little bit differently about something, approaches something in a different way, if we're waiting on something from someone else, all these little micro stresses that we might not recognise, but they bubble underneath. Someone's family situation changes, someone doesn't have the emotional energy, all different factors come into collaborations. It's about getting some really clear agreements, everybody knowing each other's needs, their values, and decision-making practices in place, prioritisation practices in place. One of the biggest things I hear about is what's fair and what's not. And this is what we're going to talk about in our thriving, really hone into your zone of genius so you can have those conversations. So Jenny's like a whiz on social media, and she's great at knocking up her documents, and she's great at clarifying and getting really to the point. When I talk to hear myself think, and Jenny will come in with 3 words, somewhat what I just spent 100 words saying. So we work really well in partnership, and we check in. We've developed processes. So whenever we meet, we collaborate first, saying, what do we need to get from today? What do you need to get from today? What do I need to get from today? Where are we here? And we've got all this in place, so there's no second guessing. If we do need to check in with each other, we'll do that as well. So we call it dropping anchor, don't we? Drop anchor and just say, can I have a bit of space, pause, get out what's going on. Can I just run this past you? So I drop things in WhatsApp group all the time. And I'm like, can I just drop anchor a minute? You get really annoyed with my WhatsApps. But I needed that to do that, and I needed to know that so that I could carry on sort of stalking a bit of WhatsApp.
It's that really effective communication that's so important to making this work.
And the final bit was we were giving back to our community. So originally, when we go through our models, this might make more sense to you when we go through our model, what we're going to do, hopefully, to help you. This giving back to our community. So our original idea, so we did set a goal, Graham, and we were very clear on our goal, and we had our milestones, we had our quarterly goal, everything, was to develop a training, bringing in Jenny's experience from her HR consultancy. And my background has always been with talking to people and supporting solution focused, to do a course around having those difficult conversations and supporting leaders in organisations. But what happened from that in doing the process, that's just become one element now. We've seen how we can really make more of an impact. And does anybody follow Stephen Bartlett at all? I know there was something he developed, and he said it started off as something completely different to do with his third web stuff. And he said, we were developing this product, and it ended up, I think, a coaching product, the online coaching, he said just evolved differently. So we want to take that clause that we originally wanted, because we're very attached to that emotionally, and it's like it was in our values, and we had a real purpose for wanting to deliver that. So we've decided that that's going to be our giving back. We're going to go in and we're going to gift that course to the NHS, to schools, blue light services, and we'll work out between us what our capacity is to do that. But that'll very much giving back to the people who serve us and look after us and support us, and wherever we are in life, whatever we're doing as business owners, sometimes we can take for granted that extended support that we don't pull on unless we're in emergencies, so that's safety and security. So that's where we're going to be giving back as well. Yeah, and this was about finding your way through it. So finding your why and you will find your way. We always say we start with our why, our purpose first and foremost. I saw an amazing post, Gemma, on your purpose on your wall. Gemma's had it in lights. What is it again?
Raise the bar.
Raise the bar. I absolutely love that, raise the bar. We always want to be unlocking our potential. We want to be maximising our impact. We want to be doing the best that we can do to be the best we could be, and I love it. And Jenny and I are thinking we've got ours, are in it together, and we're going to maybe find out where you got that job. Thank you. So yeah, so finding our why first of all, for find our way, and finding your way and your why. So I love this quote. Do a lot of work with women. Maya Angelou, my mission in life is not to survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some humour and style. She had all the perfect ingredients, and this lady is so inspirational, comes through so much hardship and trauma and discrimination, and I like this concept of thriving by design, and that's what I'd like to explore today, thriving by design, and you have a choice point at any time in your life. We've titled today's session Thrive as Business Leader 2023. So like Graham said, it's a good time, February, to start thinking about your goals, what you want for the next 12 months. We don't know what's going to happen over 12 months. And if you've got a big business plan with all the strategy and longer term strategies, you could go to a business coach with all those, that strategic position of your business with all your sales, marketing, everything else you needed. This is about, okay, what does my business, how can I thrive? I thrive. How can you thrive in your business as a business leader? Because as Graham said before, we are not just our business, we are our families, our friends, our social, the things we like to do. So we need to thrive for our businesses to thrive. So we came up with this, didn't we, Jenny? Yeah. So when we look at those areas, just ask you to think about now, when you're in your businesses or leadership roles, the different areas. So we call very much creating space our model, and there's different areas. So time for reflection, refocus, time for action, time for recharge and reset. I'm sorry, can you see Alex? And time to focus on our results. And we direct our energies to different places. I'm just wondering which ones. There's normally two that people focus on when I ask. Anybody willing to share which two they focus on the most?
Action and results.
Anybody else on action and results?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's natural and that's normal, because we want our businesses to work, and just wherever we're at, if we're at startup phase, if we're at growth stage, we want to be taking action to get the results we want. When we're looking at thriving, not surviving, quite often when we're just in there, we're in survival mode. We are just going forward, focus on what we do, doing what we need to do to get what we need to get. And these spaces here, we need to make time in all of those to bring the reflection and refocus in there. We need to create space in all of those. And what happens is we can get, if we're just focusing on results and actions, if we don't spend time in there, sort of rather than measuring results. We need results, we need goals, we need metrics, we need markers, we need to know if we're on track. So I'm not saying, goals are really important. What I invite people to do is to loosen up around those goals, kind of just like unlatch the attachment to them. So yes, I've got that goal, and then make meaning of the results, spend some time out, which is brilliant place to come here to spend some time. I know there's people here today who've come for that very reason, to take time out to create some space and to really look at what's going on for them and what they want to do. Make meaning of those results, because we can get stuck in a strategy if we don't. We really can. And recharge and reset, it's very important. We build stress up throughout the day. We can have chronic stress, we can have big stresses, micro stresses. So we need to do that, and it doesn't always need to be, does it, big things to do in the day. We can create small spaces, can't we?
And I think one of the biggest things that I learned from Sarah when we started speaking is I would automatically just go to that action box, and I'm terrible for when things get a bit challenging, things get busy, I will sit in the action box and do things like tidy through my emails and just work on things that I feel really comfortable with. And one of the tools that she shared with me that really helped me reflect and refocus was the 4 Ds. So going through what can I defer, what is not that urgent that I can maybe defer to another week, to another month. What could I delegate? So I've recently started to work with a couple of other freelancers that have enabled me to free up some time and delegate some of the work that was taking up a lot of my time during the week, and that's helped a lot. What can you ditch? So what's really not adding value? And I think a lot of the time we just do things for doing's sake. You can kind of just keep doing it because it's what you've always done, it's what your team's always done, and you can spend a lot of time doing that and it's not actually adding value to your business. And then finally look at what actually needs to do. So what actions do you need to take that day or that week to really push you forward, push your team forward during those really changing, challenging times as well. And that's been a massive help to me in my business, and also what we've done together as well.
And this recharge and reset, even, so we need times outside of our working days to do that, but also within your working day to take that time to, last time I was here, we went for a walk and talked to me around the dock and went and got our lunch, which was lovely, and just take that fresh air and taking all the different senses, because our mind and body is so intrinsically linked that we don't discharge that stress in our body. And it can be as simple as taking, we call it, again, dropping anchor, that's our thing. We drop anchor and we just take a few deep breaths and just let that stress out. And just little things. I was speaking to somebody only this week, and I said just things about self-soothing. So just standing up, and if you feel your feet right now on the ground, just sort of really feeling your feet and focusing, grounding. And if we're standing up, just gentle rocking it can just change the energy in us. If you've got time, you work from home, it's great to go and blast out music and dance to some tunes, and that's really good. But there's little things we can do throughout the day and just discharge that stress, and it's really important. We are creatures of rest and creativity, and we have to have both to be productive. Otherwise, we just go into unproductive mode and keep going and going and going like a hamster on a wheel. And one thing Jenny said, which really struck with me yesterday and actually prompted me to start doodling with a pencil, as Jenny said it, and she said, you know what, that'd be really good to share, because one of our things is we only want to share things if we hope people get value off them. So I see Thrive as a process. I don't see it as an end outcome, because we're always going to have challenging time, we're always going to be busy, we're going to have time where we're worried about results and different things in our family. So I see it as a process that we keep going through, so that when we're in those challenging times, we've got resources to pull on and we can reach out for support. It's not an end outcome, because if it's an end outcome, that would imply that we're constantly thriving and we're not actually experiencing setbacks, which we do experience setbacks. We're human as well, we react rather than respond. So I see thriving as a process, and Jenny said to me yesterday, I see it as always coming back to yourself when we have those moments. When we have these moments, we need to rest and recharge, just coming back to yourself for a minute, because then what's gone is gone. So the past is gone and the future doesn't exist. If we just stay in the present, and that's why I was saying about this, anything to connect with your body, your senses, see things. So thriving is a process, and what happens is we go along and we can thrive. Sometimes we can get to the new thriving and we go backwards and forwards, but we don't quite ever feel like we're thriving. There's a missing piece. So wherever we are on that, and this missing piece, this is the how-to, we're not sure how. So we talk about the what and the when first, because the how, if we're waiting for the how constantly, we might not have the how. So we need to be able to thrive when we don't know. And part of that is building a really intelligent support network and knowing that when we do have setbacks, that we have the resources to get support and help with those. And when we have a toolkit, Thrive tools, of all the things that keep you well, that work for you. So you know the things that keep you well and the things that don't or invigorate you, bring you joy, bring you meaning, and they'll be different for each and every one of you, the things in your toolkit, and very personal to you. So we've got our toolkits, but we also are able to reach out for the how that we don't know, which is why this is great being in this space, because so many people with such a pool of strengths and wisdom and experience and talent. So we don't have to worry about the how, really. What we need to do is look after ourselves in that when we don't know the how. And that's the missing piece here. That's the missing piece. It's being confident that, that we can thrive. It's believing that we can thrive. And then thriving becomes a process round and round wherever you are. And when Jenny said it always comes back to yourself, I was just doodling. So you just thrive and just continue thriving. And in those moments when it's difficult, we just come back to ourselves. What matters to us most, what we really want, what works for us, what's meaningful to us, and keeping ourselves well in a way that works for us. So it's all about us all the time. So it's coming back, and when we can trust ourselves to come back to ourselves, and if we were leading a team in an organisation, we would think about how we can support our teams. Self-leadership, whatever we're in, is really important. It starts with you. It always starts with you. I always say, leadership is a relationship with others, relationship with ourselves, relationship with the world. But the most important relationship is the one we have with ourselves, and that's the energy we have in the world. So Jenny now is going to just talk a little bit more about that to make this make sense, really.
They can feel a bit overwhelming, and I think a lot of the time we're not even that entirely sure about what we want. I think you can always go back to that why. So for me, the reason why I went to set up this organisation by myself was to have the freedom and flexibility that I didn't have when I was employed. And I think a lot of people will share that why. You may have your own individual whys as well. But today's session is really around thriving in 2023. So I wanted to just take you through a little reflection exercise to try and get you thinking about what it is that you really want. So I want you to imagine it's 12 months time from now, it's 2024, and I want you to consider these 4 questions. So firstly, what does your life look like to you? What is that perfect day? Where do you spend your time? Where do you spend your energy? What do you do for joy? What are the kinds of interactions that you have with the people at work? I also want you to think about your impact, and this ties a lot into kind of what Graham was saying around how your goals are really personal to you. They can't just be work, they have to be personal, health related, finance related too. So I want you to think about who your work has impacted at the end of that 12-month period. So what have the impacts been on your family, your friends, the team, the community that you're in, your industry, and maybe even the world as well. I also want you to think about what have you achieved financially, and as we've said before, like everyone's at completely different stages in their businesses. You might just be at that very starting point where you just want to make sure that those bills are paid and you're surviving. You might be in a position where your goal is to match that full-time income that you had in an employed role, or maybe you've got bigger financial goals on top of that. But I think we can all be a little bit funny about money. It's not a very nice thing to have to think about, but it's such a big enabler for our businesses and also our lives. I think, Gemma, you mentioned it, like in order to fund those lives and live the life in which we want to live, like that finance element and those finance goals are really important too. I recently watched something and they were talking about how when you get paid, rather than seeing it as payment, you can see it as an investment in you. So really think about whenever you do receive a payment for your services or for your business, how do you want to use that investment? How are you going to invest in your business and your life? And then finally, emotions, which I kind of think is one of the most important ones. So our emotions kind of impact how we feel, and how we feel impacts how we think, how we think impacts on what actions we take, which ultimately lead to our results. And I think we've all been in that situation where you wake up with a positive mindset, good things seem to happen throughout the day. You wake up, you miss your alarm, bad things that tend to happen throughout the day. I know we can't always control that, but that mindset and the emotions and how we really want to feel every day in business are a really key point in deciding what it is that you want. And if that feels a bit overwhelming, there's a quick exercise that you can try if you want to take a little picture of that. It's just going through your future vision, where you feel you are currently, but also how far you've come. Don't forget those little wins, they're really important. Daily wins, weekly wins, monthly wins, and then also yearly wins. So hopefully after you've left today, you can work on that exercise in your own time to really work out how you want to feel and how you want your life to be.
It's okay for us to share this with people.
Yeah.
I'll send it out to everyone.
So, coming back to the way then, and I'll just briefly talk you through it. I love this quote from Simon Sinek, who's a very sort of vocal thought leader in leadership. He says, we have to stop thinking about business as a race and start thinking about it as a lifestyle. So, I think the nature of the way we're working is very much changing. It seems to be, I've always been employed, so over the last 5 years, I've come out of employment, working for myself, and it was all new to me. I led a service, I went to business partnerships in the service, but actually being my own business was all new. And I was thinking, I've got to do it when I was working, I've got to get on with everything. But actually, it was impacting on me, definitely. And if I didn't think about this lifestyle, what happens is we end up burning out. We do end up burning out, constantly thinking about those actions, results, and not making space for the things in life. So think about the way you want to progress your life, because if you think about now, our lifespans, I don't know what the average age is in this room, I know what my age is, and I'm probably just past the halfway mark. But if we think about somebody shared me once an analogy of a golden ribbon analogy. It was my business coach, and she said she traumatizes everybody with this. So if you think of your life as a golden ribbon, and the average age in the room, so I'll just work with my age. So get a pair of scissors, half it immediately gone. And then you think about, okay, so what things in my life take up my time? So the things I have to do, the essential things, sleeping. Is that about a third, I would say? What day? What about eating, the essentials, shopping, travelling? We end up, before we know it, with this little stub of ribbon, no bigger than the palm of our hand, and that's what we've got left. Our life is really important and it's precious. So it's really important that we embrace the opportunity, the choice point to live it on our terms and have these opportunities to create going forward as business leaders, our businesses in a way that allows us to thrive in that. So the first part of thriving, self-awareness and self-leadership. Self-awareness and leadership is key leadership traits, and it's the practice of emotional intelligence. So when we know, when we can relate to ourselves and how we react and respond, really know our triggers and be aware, get clarity in how we are in the moment, that is a really empowering place to be. It gives us choice and control and how we respond and react to things, so be really self-aware of what's going on. Yeah, so it's fine. Trust you know yourselves best. You are the absolute experts on yourselves, and quite often, I don't know anybody, have you ever made a decision or gone forward with a course of action that didn't quite work out? You knew there's something inside you before where you thought, I knew it, but I thought I'd try it anyway. Now, I'm not saying not to be courageous and try out things that stretch us, but really hook into, if we know our purpose and our values and what's important to us and our purpose, we can kind of link into this a lot quicker and follow our intuition and let our values be our guiding light, let our purpose be our North Star. So that's why it's really important to have those things. It helps us build that trust in ourselves. Remember that you are the beating heart of your business. If you're not well, if you're not thriving, your business is not meeting its potential to thrive. people are the lifeblood of businesses. And if you're in a leadership position, you need to lead yourself well so that you are that healthy horse feeding that out to everybody in your business. So this is the learning bit. We're continually learning for growth, which is where compassion comes in. When we know better, we do better. And we embrace everything as an opportunity to learn and find the gifts in challenge, the gifts in change. We're compassionate, we move better. You know, what am I doing really well? What could I do better? How can I be kind to myself in moving forward? What kind message can I give myself in doing that? And then the energy, the fuel you want to put in and take out. We're like cars, you put the wrong fuel in, we stumble and stutter, and then next minute we're broken. Put the right fuel in and know what works for you. What do you need to keep well to make sure that works for you in the heart?
And the final bit, and I think a lot of us, we get that energy from the people that we surround ourselves with. And I love the saying, you're the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So really encouraging you to build that really good network, that strong network around you. Have people that you can go to that are going to challenge you, that are going to celebrate you, that are going to support you and help you, and be really mindful of the people that you surround yourself with. And I think this group in Northern Affinity is a great way to kind of build that network and build that collaborative network around you as well.
Yeah, so final reflections, another thing around our perspective and our mindset, why it's so important. You know, if we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. There is an opportunity in every challenge, an opportunity in every change. It's a choice point to move away from what we think we should be doing to what we could be doing, exploring that choice point, and then moving forward with I will. Making that choice, empowering ourselves, doing the things that feel right for us, and getting the right help and support. And that's it. So we'd like to finish and invite you as well, if you've got time and you'd like to use the feedback and development forms. We're going to spend some time this afternoon and try and, I said we're trying to pull the key points together, and someone told me, no, you're doing a thematic analysis. So if you'd like to be part of our thematic analysis, we will share back with you what people are sharing with us in the hope that that it will be helpful to really pull those key themes together.
I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you today, and I hope you found that useful as well. If anybody's got any questions, we can answer them now, or we can answer them afterwards individually, if that's helpful too.
That's something. When you're dealing with maybe a new business and their focus is on the results and the actions, and that's what they keep focused on, I think that's quite understandable to an extent. How do you get them to widen that view and look at the other 2 areas?
Well, first of all, the first thing to do is to understand why it's challenging for them to come out. So really work with their fears around that. And it's normally a fear-based thing, and to really normalise it. And I think that's really important that you've brought that point up. Thank you, to normalise and naturalise these things, because they are processes we go through. They're this growth process we go through when we're in that stage. Normalise it, naturalise it, and invite them to consider another perspective. So, for instance, I know a woman who goes out every morning now. She goes for a lovely long walk. She has a lovely glass of water, and she was getting up and she was on a computer and do. And she said, I come in, she had never sat for the day, and because she's gone straight into that, she's understood that as an investment in her business. So it's really asking questions. We don't tell anyone, we ask them questions. If that's a coaching approach, really trusting that person knows what works for them and they know why they're doing that. So exploring the understanding, being really aware, that's emotional intelligence. Why am I doing this? What's my belief behind this? And then working with supporting them with that. And starting small changes at a time.
Thank you, guys.
It's something general.
Just a quick question, sorry. How would you guys go about sort of implementing this within teams? So I very much find that we give our teams actions and measure results. So how do we give them that? And let them go home. So I think we're getting the so how do we bring back that reflection in?
It's literally, I would say, creating space. And our whole model is around creating space, and it's giving them the opportunity to do that and setting up for success because quite often you say to people, take time out and do this and get together and that. As leaders, sometimes we have to take the reins and say, you know, I've created the space, it's our for you to go offside, to go for a walk, we need to all model it as a leader, say, let's come together and let's look at these results and make meaning from them, and give people space to contribute without being a right or a wrong. We're not here to measure, we're just here to reflect and to look at what's going on. And if people understand why, they're more willing to get on board. So we're going to try and create some space because I feel that it's important to do that because the way we work, it's unproductive. And people see that, and if you I think you set the emotional tone as a leader, so they will look to you. So there's no point saying to people, I want you to create space and I want you to do all these things and reflect and review, and then you're email until all hours at night.
I think it's really important as well as a manager to understand what your team actually want from their work and their life to help you, you know, manage them in a way that you're going to get the most out of them as well. So understanding, you know, the things that trigger them, the things that help them will help you better support them to get more.
And that reflectory focus can be as simple as creating a 20-minute coffee thing, and as you creating a space in the day, purposeful space, intentional space, where we just maybe, well, for whatever reason you want to discharge. Sorry, I know everybody's waiting to read.
Thank you to Jane and Sarah. So I'm sure you're happy for people to come and chat with you as well. So thank you both. Thank you everyone for today. You've kind of got some useful stuff. You've enjoyed it. But the day kind of continues really. That this kind of, I guess, the end of the inverted commas formal element of it. Give me 2 or 3 minutes just to get the food all out, and kind of very much help yourself. Hang around, have some discussions. If you need to get a bit of work done, anything like that, please do. Feel free to stay as long as you need to. It's Kelly here from Clockwise as well. I'm sure I'm happy to show you around if you want to see any other parts, and because this is only a relatively small part of the building, isn't it? And all its very lovely offices and everything like that in other areas. So feel free to do that. Yeah, and I'll share the information that's been shared as well with everyone via email. Realistically, it's probably going to be Monday. I'll get that to you. So thank you everyone for coming. I said hope to see you at the co-working days soon, and I'm sure we'll be doing a similar event here again as well. So thank you everyone for coming, and thank you to speakers as well. Now give me 2 minutes and you can have some food.